Hello and welcome to another episode of The Rugged Homestead. On today's episode, we're going to be cooking sourdough bread, but because my oven isn't working right now, we're actually going to be baking it in a pressure cooker. You can find online recipes for making bread in a pressure cooker using like a coffee can and things like that. We're not going to be doing that with our sourdough bread. We're actually going to be baking the bread in the pressure cooker. So it's going to be slightly different. It's not actually going to be pressure cooking the bread, but we're going to be using the pressure cooker to cook it. But before we can actually get to cooking the bread, what we need to do is actually make the dough. And that's actually a long process because you need to mix the ingredients, let it rise for half a day, then knead it again, and then let it rise for a few more hours before you can actually get to baking the bread. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to make the dough, and I'll show you how we go about doing that. Unlike regular bread, you start off making sourdough bread with something called a starter. Unfortunately, I already have my starter made, so it's fortunate for me, not for you, so I can't show you how to make the starter. But it's not a particularly difficult process. I've had a few false starts, but if you look online, you'll find plenty of recipes there for making a starter. But once you have your starter, it's a very simple thing to actually make the sourdough bread. It's a bunch of simple ingredients that you need to make the bread. First off, you start with 4 cups of flour. You can use all-purpose flour like I'm using here, or you can use bread flour. 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 1/4 cups of water, and 1 cup of starter. Then you're going to knead the flour for 10 minutes. Okay, after 10 minutes, we take it out of the bowl and we transfer it to another bowl that we'll use to let it rise. Then we take our dough. That's fine. And now we cover it with a towel and let it sit for 12 hours. We're just a couple of hours into the rise, but I just wanted to show you how the dough is rising. So we still got a lot of time to go yet, but it's working.
One eternity later.
So here we are 12 hours or so later, and stressing the or so. And as you can see, the dough is really risen. So what we do now is we take it out of the bowl and we're going to knead it for a few minutes. I'm going to put some flour down on the countertop and we'll knead it on the flour. Okay, now what you have to do is what's called proofing, and that's letting it rise for another 4 hours. So I'm supposed to have a proofing basket, which I don't, but I have this wicker basket here. So I'm just going to take the dough, sprinkle some flour into the basket, and then place the dough in there. We'll cover it once more. And we'll come back in 4 hours. Okay, we're 4 hours later, and our dough is changed some shape. So what we're going to do now is going to take it out of this pan. I'm going to add it into this pie tin. Normally, you'd be putting the dough into a Dutch oven, but since we're doing this in the pressure cooker, I'm going to be putting it into this pan here. First thing I'm going to do is get some parchment paper, which I'm going to put over the top of the dough, so that when I flip it over onto the pan, the paper will be underneath the pan. Now, just going to make a cross with the razor in the top of the dough. Now I have my pressure cooker working here, and I've already got it on. It's on a medium-high heat, so it's been heating up for about 5 minutes or so. And as you can see, I've got the perforated pan in the bottom. And what I'm going to do is take just a pie tin, and I'm going to put it on the bottom like this. See if I can put this in here without burning myself. There we go. Now the important thing to remember with this is to remove the seal, the rubber seal. If you left that in there, it would melt, which we don't want. Now you're not creating a pressure seal in here, so you're not going to need the lid, the weight on top. The valve stem isn't going to pop up or anything like that. So now what we do is we're going to leave it, it's on medium-high heat, and we're going to leave it like this for 15 minutes. The pans that we put into the pressure cooker, that's to keep the dough off the heat. Because if you just put that one pan right on the base with the flame underneath, it would cook the bottom, make it hard faster than the rest of the bread. So by raising it up off the heat, it helps the entire dough cook at the same rate. Okay, the timer has gone off. It's been 15 minutes. So what we're going to do now is just lower the temperature. And again, it's not pressurized, so there's no problem with looking in. So as you can see, that crust that we put in is starting to split. The dough is starting to bake. So with the lid back on, we'll let it bake now for another 20 to 30 minutes. We'll set the timer for 20, and then we'll peek in at that point and see how much further we need to go. I'm going to think, based on last time, that it's going to need a little bit more time in the pressure cooker, but we'll see how it's going. So the timer is going off again. I'll take another peek inside and see how it's looking. As you can see, it's getting more done, but if you look closely, you can tell that the bread isn't really cooked in here yet fully. So we're going to put the lid back on and let it cook for a while longer. I'll put the timer on for another 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and check. So the timer's gone off again, and I'll take another look at it. Yeah, this looks a lot better. I'll let you get a close-up in there. So I'm going to put you down. I'm actually going to take the loaf out of the bread to show you how to test it to see if it's ready. So what they say to do is to take your bread, and you want to hear like a hollow sound, which that seems to give to me. It's got a nice brown color on the back. So what I'm going to do is turn my stove off. But I'm going to cut this open. It's always good to let it cool off, but just to show you how it looks. There we go. Whew. And it's hot. Oh yeah, that tastes good. So there you go. Cooking sourdough bread in a pressure cooker. If your stove happens to go out, doesn't mean you still can't have fresh bread. Fortunately, got my part in, so I'll be repairing the oven, and I'll be showing you how I replace the igniter in my oven. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below. That way you'll be notified right away when videos like this are posted. Okay, thanks for watching.